I'm going to teach you how to avoid presentation disaster in 3 steps. Why am I going to teach you this? Well, everybody, no matter who they are, is going to have a problem sometimes with being prepared for a presentation. You might show up there, think you're ready, and then, uh-oh, you forgot something or something goes wrong. So what do you do to avoid such a disaster? Especially if you have to give a big presentation for something related to work or for school, whatever. This could be a really big problem for you if you're not fully prepared or if you don't know how to avoid disaster. This actually happened to me just recently. I was asked to give a presentations workshop for 2 hours to CJ, which is one of the biggest companies in Korea. They are a food and beverage giant, and they also operate the CGV movie theater chain, the biggest one in all of Korea. So I had to give a 2-hour workshop to their employees about how to give a presentation. I showed up thinking I was totally ready, and I realized I completely forgot to bring the power adapter for my laptop, which was a problem because the laptop battery only lasted about an hour or so at that time. There was some issue with it, I have no idea what. In any case, this is how I avoided disaster. Number 1 is that I was completely prepared. When I say completely prepared, I mean that I already knew everything about my presentation before I even showed up there. I had practiced it, I had known all the material about 2 weeks prior, even 1 week prior, I knew everything. So I was completely prepared to give the presentation without the computer at all. I could have done it without any help. Second step, okay, step number 2 to avoiding presentation disaster. Backup. This means to have backup copies of your presentation slides stored somewhere online. A USB thing is also fine, USB key is also fine, but I like to put everything onto the internet. So I used Dropbox and I also used iWork. I used 2 different services. I uploaded my files to those services so I could access them no problem from anywhere. I knew that if I couldn't use my computer, I could at least use those there, okay? It worked. Anyway, step number 3 is compatibility. Okay? Compatibility in this case means that the files that I did upload were actually in the formats that would have been useful or that I could use at CJ. At that time, I knew that I would be using PowerPoint or a PC. I couldn't use my MacBook if anything happened, so I uploaded PowerPoint files. Now what I also did was I checked to make sure the PowerPoint files were going to look okay when they were converted into PowerPoint files, because the Keynote files, when they're transferred to PowerPoint, sometimes don't look right. So I made sure they were okay before that. There was also a video within my presentation, and I knew that on most PCs, they don't play QuickTime movies without the proper codec. Now I couldn't trust that they would have had a codec, so I made sure that I imported MP4 files and also an AVI file of that video. And in fact, that computer couldn't play QuickTime, so I was lucky I had those as well. Wasn't lucky, I knew that I was going to need them, just in case. So that's what I did, made sure I had the compatible files as well. So there you go. There are 3 steps to avoiding presentation disaster. Number 1 was be prepared. Know your presentation, know what you have to say well beforehand so that you can go there and do your entire presentation without any notes. Step number 2, make sure that you have a backup copy of everything. I like to use Dropbox and iWork to store everything because they're easy to access from anywhere as long as there's an internet connection, and usually there is, so it's not a big deal. Step number 3, make sure that your files are compatible with the location or the equipment that you're going to be using your stuff on, all right? So I made sure I had PowerPoint files ready. I made sure they would look okay if they're on a different type of screen with a different resolution, and so I was completely ready. So that's how you avoid presentation disaster. Hopefully it will never happen to you, but believe me, it can happen to anybody. Good luck and talk to you again soon.